Two new government shutdown deadlines are fast approaching, and they could bring some major changes for millions of Americans. This isn't just political drama. It's a real situation that could affect everyday lives. Federal employees, retirees, and even the timing of benefits like Social Security and veterans payments. Lawmakers in Washington are once again facing critical budget deadlines, and the tension is rising as agencies prepare for what could be another round of funding uncertainty. Before we dive into what's happening, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell right now, so you don't miss any of the breaking updates we'll be covering as this story unfolds. These next few weeks could determine how much stability Americans can expect heading into the new year, especially when it comes to essential federal programs that millions rely on. Now, here's what's really happening. Congress has set two new shutdown deadlines, one in early November and another just weeks later. The deadlines come from the temporary funding plan lawmakers passed earlier this year to keep the government open after previous budget disagreements. Instead of a long-term solution, they only approved short-term funding extensions, also known as continuing resolutions, to give themselves more time to negotiate a full-year spending package. That time is now running out, and once again, agencies are preparing contingency plans in case Congress doesn't act in time. If lawmakers fail to reach an agreement, large parts of the federal government could shut down temporarily. That means non-essential services could pause, federal employees could be furloughed without pay, and certain benefits might face delays depending on how long the stalemate lasts. Even though Social Security, Medicare, and veterans benefits would continue to be paid, many of the offices and workers who process those payments could be affected, leading to slower response times, reduced support, and overall confusion for millions of people trying to get help or updates. The first of these two deadlines is expected to impact agencies like the Department of Transportation, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and others that rely on discretionary funding. If no deal is reached, those departments could see partial closures, halting infrastructure projects, and delaying public housing programs. The second deadline will hit a broader range of agencies, including Defense, Homeland Security, and Health and Human Services, which play massive roles in daily federal operations. The reason this is such a big deal is that the shutdown doesn't just affect government employees, it ripples across the economy. A prolonged shutdown could slow down consumer confidence, delay federal contracts, and even affect the timing of tax refunds if the IRS faces furloughs. It's not an exaggeration to say that these funding battles have real consequences for ordinary people trying to plan their lives. Budgets and retirements. What's fueling the gridlock this time? Lawmakers are split over several key issues: spending levels, foreign aid, and policy riders attached to the budget bills. Some members of Congress are pushing for deeper spending cuts, while others want to maintain or increase funding for programs like healthcare, education, and social support. The political divide is so sharp that even small disagreements can derail the entire process, leading to temporary funding lapses. For seniors and retirees, there's understandable concern. Even though Social Security payments would continue, administrative delays can cause problems. During past shutdowns, new benefit applications, address changes, or claims for lost payments took longer to process. While the Social Security Administration is one of the more protected agencies, the effects of a wider shutdown can still slow down call centers and limit access to in-person support. Veterans might also see similar slowdowns. The Department of Veterans Affairs generally continues operations during shutdowns, but if the stalemate drags on, certain support functions or community programs could experience reduced capacity. It's the uncertainty that causes the most anxiety, not knowing how long it could last or what services might be affected next. Federal employees, meanwhile, are already on edge. In the last shutdown, hundreds of thousands were furloughed or forced to work without pay until the government reopened. Many are still recovering from that financial strain, and facing another round of pay interruptions would be a serious challenge. For contract workers, those who clean federal buildings or provide cafeteria services, the impact can be even harsher, since they often aren't reimbursed for lost wages after a shutdown ends. Beyond the human cost, there's also the economic price tag. Every time the government shuts down, it costs billions in lost productivity and delayed economic activity. Analysts estimate that the last major shutdown cost the economy over $11 billion, much of which was never recovered. It's a stark reminder that political standoffs don't just happen in Washington. Their effects reach every state, every community, and every household that depends on federal programs or funding. At the heart of the current standoff is the fight over how much the government should spend in the next fiscal year. Some lawmakers want to bring spending down to pre-pandemic levels, arguing that the deficit is growing too quickly. Others believe cutting too deeply could hurt working families, seniors, and essential public services. This back and forth has made it nearly impossible to reach a long-term compromise, leading to the repeated use of short-term funding bills, and now, 2 more deadlines that could trigger chaos. There's also a broader political dimension here. As the election year approaches, both parties are trying to position themselves as fiscally responsible while still protecting their core priorities. That's why many observers believe these shutdown threats may continue right into next year, creating an ongoing cycle of uncertainty. In the meantime, federal workers, retirees, and people relying on government programs are left in limbo, unsure if their next payment or service will arrive on time. For ordinary Americans, the best thing to do right now is to stay informed and prepared. If you rely on federal benefits like Social Security, SSDI, or VA payments, it's unlikely that your checks will stop. But delays could happen if administrative offices are understaffed. Make sure your banking information is up to date, and keep an eye on official communication channels for any changes. For government employees, unions and agency websites will continue to post guidance as the situation develops. Businesses that depend on federal contracts should also be cautious. Shutdowns can delay payments and approvals for projects that rely on government funding. For example, small construction firms that work on federal infrastructure projects could see work paused, which affects payroll and supply chains. The longer the shutdown lasts, the more difficult it becomes for small businesses to absorb those disruptions. The coming weeks are going to be critical. Lawmakers must either pass new funding bills or agree to another short-term extension to keep the lights on. Some reports suggest there's momentum toward another continuing resolution, essentially kicking the can further down the road. But others warn that patience in Congress is wearing thin. Many members are demanding a full-year budget deal, not another patchwork fix. This is where things could get tricky. If both sides dig in, the risk of at least a partial shutdown grows much higher. A short shutdown might not cause lasting harm, but the longer it drags on, the more damage it can do to the economy, to families, and to America's global reputation for stability. International markets watch these developments closely, and even the hint of a shutdown can cause uncertainty in financial sectors. Right now, agencies are quietly preparing for the possibility. Contingency plans are being updated, notices drafted, and employees briefed about what to expect if funding runs out. These are the kinds of behind-the-scenes actions that usually signal serious concern within Washington. No one wants a shutdown, but with deadlines fast approaching, every hour counts. As the situation unfolds, it's important to separate facts from fear. Shutdowns don't mean the entire government stops working. Essential services like air traffic control, postal delivery, and national security continue operating. What does happen, though, is a major slowdown in everyday functions that people often take for granted: processing passports, approving business loans, and maintaining national parks, for example. Those services would be reduced or paused until funding resumes. The big question now is whether lawmakers can compromise in time. Both parties know the stakes are high. A shutdown could frustrate voters and add more pressure heading into campaign season. That's why last-minute deals are so common. But relying on those 11th-hour resolutions only adds to the instability that Americans have been feeling for years. If you've lived through a shutdown before, you already know how unpredictable they can be. The good news is that historically, the government always reopens and payments are eventually processed. The challenge is the stress and uncertainty that come with not knowing how long it will take. That's why staying updated through reliable news sources and official government websites is key. We'll continue tracking this situation closely and breaking down what each new development means for seniors, families, and workers across the country. As these deadlines approach, every announcement from Congress could make a big difference, especially if new agreements are reached or if another short-term fix is proposed. So stay tuned, because these next few weeks could shape how the government operates heading into 2026. Whether we see another shutdown or a last-minute deal, one thing is clear: change is coming, and it's going to impact millions of Americans in ways big and small. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss our next update, where we'll cover what Congress decides and how it might affect Social Security payments, veterans' benefits, and federal employees. Turn on notifications, drop a comment below about what you think will happen, and share this video with anyone who needs to stay informed. This is one of the biggest stories of the year, and we'll keep breaking it down for you as it develops. Stay informed, stay prepared, and remember, every update counts when it comes to your benefits and your future.